everyone. My name is Shamira Davis, and I am so thrilled to kick off the AI Foundations course with you today. In just a few moments, I will share with you why we are kicking off this initiative and explain what you can expect over the next few weeks. But first, a little bit about me. I am a maker, I'm very passionate about education, and I used to be a data scientist that worked in financial services and manufacturing before I joined H2O. Here's the agenda for today. I will introduce you virtually to the group by briefly talking about the survey you completed. Then we will talk about what AI is and why it's important right now. Then I will introduce you to the AI transformation journey and talk about the 5 keys to unlocking AI value. Then you will hear more about real customers who've undergone an AI transformation. And then finally, we will wrap up and talk about next steps. H2O is offering 2 new options as on-ramps to getting started with AI. Depending upon your needs, you can take one or both of these as you get started. So a little bit of information about both. The AI Foundations course is designed to introduce you to key concepts. No prior AI knowledge or background is necessary. No technical or coding experience is necessary. And the exercises that accompany each module will be non-technical and introductory in nature. The Machine Learning or ML Foundations course will apply AI concepts, and to aid in your success, some experience with Python or R would be helpful. And the exercises for each module will be technical and go deeper. Now, it's not a prerequisite that you take AI Foundations to take the Machine Learning Foundations course. So the two are not dependent on each other, but if you are just getting started, it is recommended that you take both the AI Foundations course, and if you want to get hands-on experience with some of the tools, then take the Machine Learning Foundations course as well. So some benefits for the courses: you get access to H2O AI experts, other community makers, and then you can form a community of your own by participating in discussions and study groups. Additionally, upon successful completion of the AI or the Machine Learning Foundations course, you can obtain a badge. And in order to do that, you would successfully complete the assessments at the end of each module. This is not a requirement to participate in the live sessions. Over here on the right, you might see that you see this onion. And so this is just an indication that while we won't have time to teach you everything you need to know about artificial intelligence, we will peel back the layers and get you up to speed on the most important aspects that will get you or your company started with AI. So you may see this little cloud icon up here on some of the slides, and that's where I will point out where either in this course or in the Machine Learning Foundations course, we'll go a little bit deeper into the concepts. All right, so this is just to show you where you are right now. This is the first session in the first module, and this is a preview of all of of a few of the upcoming sessions. If you're interested in kind of knowing where in the schedule something that might be of interest to you, then you can always go to the community learning site, which is at training.h2o.ai. All right, so let's talk about some of the things you told us about yourself. When we asked you how much experience you have had with AI or ML, the majority had at least worked on a few entry-level projects, and about 21 of you responded that you didn't have any experience. And then, some other people have worked on some projects independently, done some tutorials, or taken a course. So you are all in good company here. As I mentioned before, this course does not presume that you know anything about AI, and you'll do well if you don't have a background. And we're here to learn from each other. When it comes to technical background and industry, starting with technical background, the majority of you have have either basic experience or more with programming. So if you're interested in the ML Foundations course, then you may be set up for success. Whereas for the people with no technical background, if you're interested in ML Foundations, that's definitely it's definitely a time between now and when that course starts to pick up a couple of skills in Python or R. If we look at industry, outside of what was not indicated, the majority of you come from financial services, which is not surprising. And then we've got a large number of students in our in the audience as well. All right. For AI projects, interestingly, about 59% of you said that you were not working on an AI project. And so when we asked about challenges, there were a number of different reasons why. So many of you stated that you needed help with increasing efficiency or help getting started. And there was also a small number of you who stated you needed help improving accuracy or getting models into production. So, in looking at these responses, and there were plenty more in that survey, I'm confident that between either the AI or the ML Foundations course, you will be able to address your challenges, get up to speed, either to start a new AI project or restart an old one, and you will be introduced to use cases that will be interesting to you. All right, so now we're going to talk about AI and the role of machine learning. When it comes to the definition of artificial intelligence, it is a field of computer science that provides the ability for a computer to learn and reason like humans using several available techniques. But it's important when you want to extract meaningful insights from massive amounts of data efficiently and fast. Most of what we're going to talk about is largely led by machine learning and some other subdomains of machine learning. And so just to give you a definition of that, it's when a computer can take lots of data or examples and learn patterns from it to make predictions on new data based on those learned patterns. But AI is more than machine learning. Machine learning is a subset of AI. Deep learning is also a family of particular cases of machine learning. So if you looked at what we're offering, deep learning is a subject within this particular course. Machine learning and deep learning get a lot of attention because it's what's being used a lot, and it's sometimes mistaken as the only artificial intelligence, but it's not. As you can see here, there are many different subfields or concepts or methods other than machine learning or deep learning. And we'll talk more about, some of those things in Module 3. All right, you're here, so AI is important. And when we talk about AI in this particular session, we're going to talk about it from the lens of business transformation. And, it's about deriving value, in the use of AI, creating new products, delighting customers, saving money. There are many different business reasons why you might want to use AI. And so it's made possible now really by a number of different factors, such as, the availability of open source algorithms and frameworks. That's where H2O got its start. There's also high performance and cost-effective compute and storage capabilities. And then, just from the sheer amount of data available and advanced data science skills, we're now able to kind of take advantage of, all of these previous capabilities and use it to do some really interesting transformations through industries and specific use cases. So how exactly can, different organizations use AI? As you can see here, it can be used to solve a number of different domain-specific problems and across industries. So in financial services, solving problems like determining credit risk or detecting fraudulent transactions are pretty common. AI is saving lives uh, in the healthcare industry by addressing things like early cancer detection, remote patient monitoring, and personalized prescription matching. Telecom companies are using AI to place advertisements more intelligently, and then to improve the customer viewing experience. In marketing and retail, you're probably affected by pretty often. You get personalized ads, and companies can predict when a customer will leave before they do. And so you can start to put plans in place to kind of mitigate that. So this is just I didn't even go through all of the use cases, but this is just a small list of how AI can be used. And we're going to hear more about some of those specific use cases a little bit later today. All right. So when we talk about transformation brought about AI, we have to talk about how organizations have kind of shifted the thinking from being reactive to proactive. So what exactly does that mean? AI allows individuals or companies to move from treating all customers the same. So in the case of, mass branding, we can now provide real-time individualized experience to a customer, or from providing the same medical treatment to patients, we can provide personalized health care. So AI has allowed decisions to be moved from post-transaction, so looking at the history and only reacting, to making decisions before a customer does something, or before a customer buys something, or before we need. So it's pre-decision in many, many different cases. All right. So now we're going to talk about the AI in terms of business value. So really, I'm going to introduce the 4 phases of the AI journey that businesses can undergo in the pursuit of transformation. So we're going to talk about each phase in detail in Thursday's session. But I will say that although this journey that you see here is heavily enterprise centric, you as a person that is here today are either as a potential or current AI practitioner, a decision maker, or an executive, play a critical role in the success of the transformation within an enterprise. So I'm going to point out important roles in each phase of the journey in the next session as well. So the first phase is potential. And this is where an organization has some interest in AI and maybe will undertake an evaluation of the value of it. And maybe you'll do a proof of concept to get started. The second phase is operational. So there is more focus on structure around specific AI initiatives, and there may be an effort in disparate groups to create, so you might have separate groups that are creating separate AI applications. At the strategic phase, an emphasis is made to create an enterprise strategy around around creating AI platforms, and maybe centralizing AI and data governance with a focus on security as well. In the data-driven stage, the enterprise is mature, and they're taking insights from data and using them as a competitive advantage. And there's also widespread adoption and consumption of the specific AI resources. And so then the enterprise actually becomes the leader in the industry. So we're going to hear more about this in the next session. So if you have questions about that, we'll definitely talk more about what that looks like and how do you get from one place to the next. All right. So, if you don't take anything else away today, at least take away these keys, because this is what's going to help you kind of unlock the value of AI. So to get started, we've identified 5 different keys that'll help you unlock the value of your of AI. The first is creating a data culture. And so this is where you're going to look for people on your team that are analytical, they're creative, they, have a data-driven mindset. And you're going to hear this a lot over the course of the next few weeks. But, everything starts with data, and without it, you won't be successful with AI. So the second key is to ask the right questions. And I cannot stress this enough. Not every question or use case is going to be appropriate for using AI. And that's a good skill to learn when you're going to be successful using an AI or machine learning technique versus maybe using another technique that will get you an answer but doesn't require you to go through the entire workflow and the investment of using AI. So look for use cases that are going to help you predict what's going to happen next, that looks for patterns or trends, and it has to be quantifiable. And so we're going to talk more about that in future sessions. And I will say, as a data scientist in industry, this is one of the critical pieces that will make or break you. The third, which I think is really important, and I think you'll see the value of this today and over the coming weeks, is connecting to a larger community in AI. So H2O does have a large community of people who come from an open source background. We have meetups, we have other customers that would be happy to share. The people that work at H2O, we are definitely people who we're very customer centric. So and we're here to build larger communities. So take advantage of that. Learn the best practices. Learn what not to do, so that you can be successful with AI sooner. And then the fourth key is to think through all of your technology considerations. So things like, where's your data? How much data do you need? Do you want to run your AI in the cloud, on premises? Where do you want to deploy your AI system? What data sources are you going to use? So basically, you have to start asking those hard questions. So thinking about the entire process of, what does my end state look like? And we'll provide you some frameworks for that in future sessions. And then the last key is to learn more about explainable AI and learn to trust AI. So this is something that, maybe you're just now starting to hear about. Is something that we definitely are putting a lot of effort into creating infrastructure and, thought leadership on making sure that you're creating models that not only you trust, but your customers trust. So we've got a really good framework that we're delighted to share with you, and that's definitely, we have a whole module surrounding that. But understanding models is going to lead to trust. So that, but I will say this, even though AI still requires a quote unquote human in the loop. So you are important as an AI practitioner, as a decision maker, as an executive, to help ask the right questions. So, are you building the right model? Is the model doing what you think it's supposed to be doing? Is it harmful to customers or, whoever the model is affecting? And once you start to answer those questions, then you can begin to trust in the AI. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about each of these 5 keys. And so the first one is doing a team and data evaluation. So the first thing I mentioned before, it starts with data. So, AI uses data from many different sources. It can take advantage of text data, images, videos, and audio to create AI-powered data products that customers want to use. So, as a person that is either creating an AI product or is leading the charge on, the strategy of this, why is data-driven decision-making important? there used to be a time when, decisions were made with the gut, but, the use of data in decisions is proven to increase your business performance. So by using data and other technologies, like big data technologies that you'll hear more about in a future session, um, companies can leverage large amount of data to get the following outcomes that you see here. So one is you can discover unknowns in your data or new meaning in it. You can obtain actionable insights that are predictive. You're able to communicate and tell compelling business stories using data. You can build confidence in your decision making, and then create valuable data products that have a real business impact. So the just to kind of like level set this a little bit, the type of AI you probably interact with every day include things like text auto completion or video and music recommendations, things like email filters or digital assistants like Alexa, maybe even a language translation app or some sort of voice recognition. These are all data products. So AI allows organizations to use data to create products that delight customers, as well as provide things like insight, increases revenue, opens up new markets, improves operations, and then also allows you to create new features in existing products. So there are many different ways to look at value when it comes to using AI and data. So to quantify some of what I talked about more theoretically, here are some examples of wins with AI. So you might see in the case of marketing a 700% increase in your marketing campaign effectiveness, or for a call center, maybe you save $1.5 million a month. If you're talking about hospitals or healthcare, we can save 10%. We can save lives by increasing sepsis detection by 10%. So there are so many different ways to quantify AI, but this is a good way to look at the return on your AI investment. And these are real examples from our customers. It's just anonymized. All right. So I said all these really good things about AI, but maybe you've read the stories that many organizations want to be able to win with AI, but talent is scarce. So there's a real disconnect between the needs and the reality of getting a large enough AI team that can support a really big AI transformation journey. So we're going to talk more about the roles and responsibilities in the next session, but I'll say the takeaway here is for those of you that are students or, just getting started in your career, know that your skills are high in demand. For business leaders or decision makers, there are ways for you to address that talent gap. And then in how you choose to structure your organization and in the tools that you consider when you're creating your AI platforms. So we'll talk more about that in the next session. Just to give you an idea of how AI teams can be organized, there are three major ways. These are not the only ways, but three major ways that organizations can be organized when it comes to talent. And so one is centralized, the other is decentralized, and the last one is hybrid. So a centralized organization is a hub and spoke model in which the data science or AI team supplies analytics to multiple business units. In a decentralized organization, each business unit has its own data science or AI capabilities. And lastly, in a hybrid organization, there is a centralized AI team, but each business unit also has its own capabilities. So as you can see, you have there are a number of different ways to be organized. Some are more mature than others, and we'll talk about that in the next session as well. All right, so I mentioned before, getting to the right problem is going to be an essential step in getting the value out of AI. So you have to make sure you get the right question to be able to measure your AI solutions effectively. So what you see here is a group of questions that have been categorized by specific business type questions that you might ask. So the first one are like how much questions. So these are the ones where we know historically the answer, which is really important in machine learning. And we can easily say how much each customer, like just to give you an example, we can easily figure out how much each customer invested each month or the cost of a stock. But where we want to get to is what are the values going to be in the future? The which one questions are those where we might have a yes or a no answer to the question. So will this customer churn? And sometimes we might even have a multi-choice question. So like 3 or more choices. So, one example might be, well, how does the customer feel about this product? Are they positive, neutral, or negative about it? So much like the how much questions are which one questions, we historically have the answers to those. This last group here is kind of like where we kind of lump things that we don't have historical answers to, but where we're actually learning new information from the data that we have. So segmentation is a really good example of this. So maybe we want to, take our customers and then group them into smaller categories based off of similar traits. Or if we've got a survey, group the survey responses into common topics, but where we don't know the topics ahead of time. So these are all business problems, but we need to be able to reframe them into machine learning ones in order to be able to unlock the value of AI. So in the case of the how much questions, these are actually regression machine learning problems where we want the machine to take that historical data and get as close as possible to the right prediction for new data. The which one questions are an example of classification problems. So binary classification in the case of only having 2 choices, and multi-class classification when we have multiple groups that we want to predict on. And then this last category here, this is where we might use an unsupervised technique like clustering, where we're going to use a machine learning algorithm that is going to look for trends in the data rather than, giving you an answer based off of historical information. So we are going to talk more about these in depth in Module 3. So if you don't know what a regression algorithm is or a classification one, you're definitely going to get that in Module 3. But I say all of this to say that, if you're a data scientist or a student or even a decision maker, it's important to be able to take the business questions, talk to each other about how to turn them into machine learning problems that can be solved. Otherwise, you might end up creating something that either you weren't really asking to create or, something that won't get used. And so as we talk about the AI transformation journey, we want to get to a stage where there's widespread consumption in AI. And part of that is making sure that you're solving specific problems, and then that people can trust that, trust in the technology so that you keep going and creating new products from AI. So asking the right questions is key. I already stated it before, and I'll, just state it again, that community is really, really important. And, we've got a rich and deep community here. And, there's so many knowledgeable people in AI. Open source products have made it so that, lots of people can get access to really world-class algorithms and techniques that will allow you to get started on your journey a lot quicker than we used to be able to do. So get connected if you're having trouble getting started. And we're here to help you do that. All right. So let's talk about technology considerations really quickly. So there are a number of different technologies available in the AI ecosystem, and that number isn't decreasing anytime soon. So if we look at this visual here, it's a bit disorienting, and maybe it's hard to know where to start if you've never had any experience with these. But maybe you recognize some of these logos, and maybe you have a vague idea of what some of these products actually are used to do. So let's look at it from a different perspective. We can organize the technologies into their main functions. So we've got cloud services, we've got databases, we've got big data and distributed computing platforms. We've got programming languages like Python or R. We've got business intelligence platforms, which will allow you to ask, descriptive questions of your data. And sometimes it is better to use BI than maybe AI in some instances. That's why it's important to really be able to understand your business problem. And then the last section is advanced analytics or AI tools, of which H2O is included in that category. So under here, you'll see where we're going to kind of talk about each one of these in more detail. So, we have a whole module on, big data technologies. So how do you take advantage of data at scale? We are going to do some hands-on exercises using, Python or R in machine learning foundations. And then the same goes for using an advanced analytic tool. And so you'll get to see some H2O tools and some other open source tools that are available out there. All right, and so the last key here is trusting in AI. So we have an entire module dedicated to responsible AI, in which we'll talk about, why it's important to, build trust in your AI process. So let's, talk for a second about a very oversimplified case of what building trust may look like. In the case of customer churn, you as the practitioner might take some data pertaining to a specific business case, learn from it, make predictions on those learnings. And as the creator of this model, you may ask questions like, why did the customer churn? When will the customer churn? What if an attribute has changed? How do I correct an error? So having the ability to investigate and answer these questions is going to help you build trust in that AI system. And then, in the case of why does machine learning explanation matter, having a trusted AI model means other consumers of it will be able to trust it as well. So the questions turn into confirmation statements like, I know when the customer will churn, I know what influenced the prediction, and I know why the model erred. So I will pause there for any questions that are before I turn this over to our next guest.
So just one question, we've been answering many of them online. What is customer churn?
That is a great question. So, as a business, you are looking to figure out if you, trying to figure out if when a customer might leave you. And so they might leave for a number of different reasons. Maybe they're not happy with the service. Maybe there's a better service. And so what you want to do is to see if you can predict by using some behaviors and some other information about the customer when a customer might be about to leave or stop using your business. So it's an expensive problem because customer churn is something that happens every day. It does cost money to acquire new customers, and so you want to make sure that you're keeping them. And so basically, it's just looking to see at what groups might be at risk of leaving us, and so then you can take action to maybe create a customer retention program or some sort of incentives for the customer to stay around? Thank you for that question.
I think we're good.
All right. So now joining me to share AI in action stories is Ingrid Burton, who is a marketing leader at H2O.
Thank you, Shamir. That was a great overview. Pretty exciting. What I want to share with you today is, AI is a journey and machine learning is a journey. It's not that you just start and you're AI enabled and you're ready to go. You go through a process, as Shamir pointed out. There's a number of different factors that you have to consider. But what I want to do is share how some of the H2O AI customers have gotten started and some of the results that they're getting. So let's start with a company I think a lot of you are familiar with, PwC. They're a company that has been on a journey for a number of years. They started out with thinking about, we're an auditor, or we're one of the big four accounting firms. And what they were looking for was, how do we get past some of the challenges we're having with, looking for new talent, new people coming out of college or joining the firm, and how do they address and get more new kind of thinking into PwC. The second part of their journey was they recognized that auditing is very manual, and we tend to forget this, but as a company closes its quarterly financials, usually an auditor has to come in and look at those financials and audit them to make sure that they're accurate, that there's no mistakes, that there's no fraud, that there's no anomalous behavior that would indicate something wasn't quite right. So it's a very manual process, and they wanted to get past that. The third thing that they were looking at is, this is in the 2014-15 timeframe. They knew they needed to go through a digital transformation, or they were getting there where they were putting everything online and everything was digital. And then the fourth thing that they looked at is, the team at PwC that we're working with, is that they wanted to make sure that they were at the forefront of technology. They wanted to be seen as a technology powerhouse, and they saw the future, and they saw that it was AI. So in the first few years, they were going on a multi-year strategy of automating audit. And so what they're really looking for is creating an application for all of their auditors to do what they would call audit.ai. And it started with the general ledger. So you'll see GL.ai. So they worked with a number of data scientists at H2O, and they determined that they could create this general ledger.ai that started looking at what was going in and out of the ledger, and actually won a Product of the Year award. But it was a first step into figuring out how to do audit.ai. The next step was, the next few years, is that they had to look at cash flow, cash.ai. How could they reimagine how cash flow was looked at? So they looked for anomalous behavior. So an example, and Shamir kind of talked about this, which is fraud or anomalous behavior. Imagine for a moment you're in the United States, and I'm not a lot of you are from the North America continent. You're in the United States, it's a Sunday afternoon, and you see $1 million transaction, or the system sees $1 million transaction on a Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. That's not a likely transaction, or you see that on a regular basis. Maybe there's supposed to be money going across the wires at 2 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, but probably not, right? So it could be a mistake. It could be just an innocent mistake. It could not be an innocent mistake. And so software can catch that, whereas humans aren't watching that. You can't wait 90 days until the end of the quarter to go catch that behavior. So things like cash.ai could catch anomalous behavior in the moment, flag it, and take care of it, and figure out what is really going on in the system. So, very happy customer. I'll go on to the next use case. So this particular company, Wells Fargo, is a major bank here in the United States. They have hundreds of data scientists, and they're doing everything from looking at, fraud, consumer 360. So that's more customer 360. How do I know what patterns a customer is going through? Somebody just asked the question about churn. You want to know, are they going to be in your bank, or are they going to leave your bank? Are they going to add a mortgage product, another kind of, a credit line? Are they going to add a savings account, or are they going to shut down? You can see this through predictions. So the data scientists have built models to do predictions on what is happening within their customer base. But all of your, everything from credit card fraud or credit spending or credit risk scoring, all of that can be pinpointed by AI and machine learning. And their big thing is, it's a regulated industry. They're a major bank. All banks are regulated. And so they have to be able to trust what is happening with the models. They have to do responsible AI, explainable AI, and using, H2O, who has some of the leading explainability offerings in the market today, they're able to trust in AI. The next one is really another insurance, and I see this in one of the chat windows, which is when you talk about customer churn, here's a perfect example of, I have this is actually happening with me right now. I have an auto insurance policy, and I'm deciding, do I want to go to Geico? Do I want to go to Progressive? Who do I want to go to next? Or should I just stay with my current insurance carrier? So Nationwide is always, all the insurance companies are looking for, are you going to be, are you likely to leave us? Are you going to stay with us? How can we keep you as a happy customer? So customer retention is very important. And Nationwide has been doing this for over 10 years. They have a centralized data science team. So you heard about the various ways in which data science teams could be organized. This is a large central team that helps decide and get answers for the major part of their businesses. So from life insurance to home insurance to car insurance to medical insurance, those are different businesses within this insurance company. And they're doing this in a central way, saving millions of dollars. And actually, the most impressive thing that I see is that they've done this for 10 years. They've scored, billions of models out there, and which is impressive in its own right. And they've done it across multiple segments and use cases. So another way in which you can look at AI and machine learning. Capital One is another large bank. They both a bank and a credit card business. A lot of you are maybe familiar with them. They started very small. They did not have any data scientists when they first started about 5 years ago. And they trained themselves in AI and machine learning to go look at everything from what are the best practices around, cybersecurity. Could we catch things in the moment? To credit card fraud, to deposit fraud. And now they started really looking at, how can we think about customers as a central point of our business and keep them satisfied? So when people call into call centers, you can tell the tonality, the voice, the words that people use through an AI to determine whether or not they're likely to stay with you, leave you, be so dissatisfied that they would leave. And you want to catch that in the moment. So they established new businesses, retained customers, and now we believe are at well over 1,000 use cases in their business. The next one is really about major US telco. We heard about this. Another one where if I'm on my current plan, do I want to go to the other carrier's plan? You think about that as consumers, we have choices. So you really want to make sure as a large corporation that consumers are happy, satisfied. You can do that with AI and machine learning by looking at their patterns, as I said, in their voice calls, as they call in and try and either get a new service added, like your international plan, or pay off a bill. You can detect a lot of things going on with people's voices, but also with their patterns of how they act and react. So can I give you a better offer on your next cell phone? Should I offer them an iPhone or an Android? Which way are they likely to go? Do they have more family members joining their plan? And AI can help do that. This major telco has created what they're calling a model factory. So they're not replicating and redoing it. Every data scientist is doing their own thing. They're all working together, and they have created this model factory to get results. The next case, going from a large telco to a large financial institution like, and a lot of you are from financial services, is Franklin Templeton, who relatively recently decided they needed to get into AI and machine learning in order to do predictions around, loan defaults, bond pricing. So there millions of dollars are going through AI to determine, what's going to happen next. So it's all about predictions, what's going to happen next, and making not just a gut decision, as Shamir said, but an informed decision with data. Next one. Our next one is a very small company, or a smallish company with a smallish data science team out of Chile. So not just AI is not just useful for financial services firms, it's useful for pretty much every business. So in this case, this is a company that produces and distributes blueberries around the world. Depending on the seasonality, you might be getting blueberries from Paraguay or Mexico, or you might be getting blueberries from Maine or Oregon. So you just don't know, depending on which hemisphere you're in. And they have farms all over the world. They're trying to distribute the fruit as fresh as possible, because if it gets to a certain destination, into your grocery store, and it is rotted, that means it's a perishable item. Somebody has to pay that shipping charge, and likely it's not going to be you or your grocery store. It's going to be Hortifruit. So they've taken 2 data scientists to determine from which farm, which varietal, what weather conditions, and which distribution mechanism are they going to get fruit as fast as possible into your distributor, into your store, and to you. So they're saving millions of dollars of perishable claims that are just a waste if the fruit doesn't get there in the fastest possible route. So this is almost a supply chain optimization example of, you can determine route to market. Do I go on a shipping container? Does the fruit go on an airplane, a cargo plane? How does it get to you? Does it go on trains or trucks? This is how they're using AI to model all of that from the point of origin to the final destination, and saving weeks and time and millions of dollars. This next one is another insurance company that's looking at, they insure jewelry. So they insure both the jewelry that I wear, for example, or the jewelers where I bought the product, right? Where I bought my jewelry. And they're looking to improve your customer experience, make sure that they're doing claims evaluation. So claim fraud is another area that AI can detect. You don't have to send somebody out. You can detect patterns, loss prevention. Also, I think what's interesting is lifetime value of a customer like myself, right? Am I going to continue to go back to the same jewelry store, or my husband or partner is going to go back to that same jewelry store to buy more items for me? Likely if they had a good experience, or get a new offer, or say you bought that bracelet, so you might want to buy this watch. Those are the kinds of things that AI can start to detect and start offering up new offers for you. So they were looking at this. They use AI in order to get those predictions and make the customer experience not only top notch, but also they're protecting the jewelry stores themselves. And then the next example is really, again, a smaller company, but they serve the real estate market. So they're a marketing firm that helps real estate companies promote their offerings. So, something that's for rent, or, an apartment that's for rent. This company, G5, did an analysis of, several 100,000 phone calls to determine the voice they used NLP, and you'll learn about that, natural language processing, to determine voice inflection, the words that were used of somebody calling in on a property. Were they likely to be the finalist in the lease, or were they going to be the one that was just a looky-loo, so to speak? And so they were able to pinpoint the right people at the right time, and not, the real estate companies wouldn't have to spend as much money determining, just hitting the market and trying to get people to be interested in these properties. They were able to pinpoint, these are the people that are going to be interested in these properties, and here's why. So much more fine-tuned, fine-grained ability to target the right consumer at the right time. And the next use case, and I think it's our final one, is a marketing company. They do loyalty programs. So for instance, airline loyalty programs or retail loyalty programs. They were able to get a huge amount of benefit and value out of AI by having, again, the programs were pinpointed to the right consumers in the loyalty program. So for instance, a large retailer, I'm part of many loyalty programs. You know, the more you buy, the discounts you get, they're able to pinpoint, I will take another offer because I'll buy more. So I'll get over a certain threshold and get more points to be able to get more discounts, et cetera. So next best offer, better campaigns targeted at me, the consumer in this loyalty program. So AI is able to do predictions and pinpoint various outcomes and help many companies, large, small, and medium size in all industries, get value and get results. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Shamir to wrap things up.
Thanks so much, Ingrid. As you can tell, as you heard, there are a number of rich use cases that are deep in terms of the application of of AI. So as we go along, you're going to hear more about how to take some of the things that you heard and apply them maybe to new questions that you might have or, within your own industry. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up what we talked about and talk about what's next.
Shamir, there's a couple questions. Do you want to just take two of them, maybe?
Sure.
So there's one question. When trying to provide an AI solution, is it a better strategy to tackle it from a business side or from an IT side? Usually there's some resistance from IT and professionals that are not aware of AI or don't have AI expertise.
Well, I think that's a good question, and I think that's part of the reason why we're offering this course today. As I think we've seen, and I can say from personal experience, when both the business side and the IT side work together, then that's when you're able to kind of create AI platforms that work for all. Now, when you're kind of working in your own silos, then, that's where you start to have those disparate and competing efforts that might not allow you to have widespread adoption. And I think that also goes back to the way that organizations are kind of set up. So I would say, if you are coming at this from, a person who's on the business side and you're maybe having some friction with your IT team, it's a good idea to, bring everybody to the table. If you're talking to a vendor like us, then, have us come in and help facilitate the conversation so we can talk about how both sides work together to get to the end or common goal.
And Ingrid, there's a question around any examples around revenue increase for customers with AI?
Yeah, I think we see that all the time from our customers. So revenue increase definitely is one where if if you keep targeting the same consumer, you can get, you'll see more revenue coming out of that particular consumer, whether it's in a bank, insurance company. So being able to create specific and personalized offers is one of the ways in which AI can help increase revenue per customer, if that's what the question is.
Yeah, and probably the last question for you, Ingrid, and there's many more questions. So there's we'll try to answer some of them offline, and at the same time, there's a study session on Saturday and Sunday that folks can continue to join. And I think some of it will be answered in the next session that we'll be doing on Thursday. But Ingrid, is there any solution to estimate the business value in AI upfront?
Well, that's where asking the right questions, as Shamir said, I think was one of the key points is it has to be a bounded question. So think, for example, will I be successful? What does that mean, right? Well, let's put some metrics on it. Will I achieve my goal of becoming an AI expert within the next year, right? And what is an AI expert? So then I can, use AI, I'm just using it as an example, but give it a time frame, give it a goal or a metric. So that's the only way if you say we're going to try and, so that's one example. If I'm at a bank, we want to eliminate fraudulent transactions by, let's say, X percent, by 0.1% or 1%. That would be a goal. And so those are the things you need to look at, is bound the problem with the time, in 8 months. Give it a time frame, give a metric. Now, can you tell whether you're going to be successful or not with the greatest level of accuracy? Right now, probably when you're just getting started, you have to look at all your data. You have to look at what have you been able to do manually or with humans. And so you want to do better than that. So those are just some of the things you need to look at, but you can't determine it. You can set the goal. You won't know until you get there. Is my take.
Thanks, Ingrid. So we'll take the rest of the questions offline or on the study group this weekend, or on the next session.
Thanks, Raphael. All right. So in terms of what is next, sorry. So what we've covered, and these are just like high-level points, is that AI is not just machine learning, and it doesn't exist without data. And we'll talk more about, how to get the right data, what is the right format and all of that stuff in a few sessions, in, the next few sessions. AI transformation does require, is a journey, and it is based off of the maturity of each different organization. So, you might just be uncovering the potential. You might already have a couple of, applications in the works. You might take it a step further and you're thinking about, well, how do I centralize this? How do I govern it? And then the last one is, how do I take advantage of that? How do I take competitive advantage of that? And then again, the 5 keys to kind of unlocking the value. So if nothing else, remember these, is to take stock of your resources. So, who's on your team and what data do you have available for you? Asking the right questions for the problem you are solving. I really like the way that Ingrid kind of stated that question, bound it, ask very specific questions, put metrics on it. So those top 2 are going to be really critical. 3 is learning from other people who have been there where you are, or and who have succeeded. Then the 4th is making sure you have the right technology in place to be able to answer the questions that you're trying to answer. And then the last one is building trust in the use of AI, because the last thing that you want to do is create something that people are not going to use, or that's going to cost you money or your reputation. Just a note over here, and I've seen this question a couple of times in the Q&A. The recording will be available within 2 days, and we are going to also post a copy of the slides for you to be able to look at and review at your own pace. So just a reminder, the next session is shifting to the next step in the AI transformation journey. So we're going to take a look at each of the steps and talk about, the ways organizations are set up, kind of how they're looking at AI, and then, what does it take to get to the next one? And then we also have a special session on Monday, July 6th, on AI transformation stories related to COVID-19. So you heard a lot of the use cases today from Ingrid about, different industries, but we'll talk more about healthcare and other companies that have become transformed using AI as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the last reminder that I'll give you is that, each of these sessions within a module will have a small quiz to complete. And, those quizzes for that module will usually be due before the next module starts, but we don't have any restriction on it. It's not required, as I stated before, but if you do complete them all successfully, you will get a badge for completion of the AI Foundations course. Raphael had already stated this, but there are 2 options available for you to ask additional questions or get assistance on AI concepts. So we have a study group that will be held each Saturday at 7 o'clock Pacific. That's where you can ask questions specific to what you've heard in any of the sessions within a module. And then on Sundays, we'll have an Ask Me Anything, where you can kind of ask whatever you want. So those will be led by one of our other community members. And there's always a discussion forum available for you. So if you have questions at any time, you can post them there. Just a nice general reminder that, if you do want to take the quiz, it is available now, but you have the option to come back and take it, before the next module starts. So the quizzes are in the same section where you launched the meeting today. So it should say quiz 1, and then the quiz name should match the name of the session. But it's on the training.h2o website. And, as we go along, we'll add some resources for you here. But we do have a glossary or a wiki for different AI related terms. So, as we start to go along, we'll point you to this. And then we'll add additional resources that might be interesting to you based off of questions that we anticipate or that we see. All right, so I'll pause here for any final questions.
So the question is, where do you take the quiz?
Yeah, so again, if you go to the training.h2o.ai site and you, let me see if I have it up. I'll share my screen with you on that. Yeah, all right. So here, I'm on the H2O training site. So if I look down here, it'll say quiz 1, and it should match the name of the session here. So the quizzes are going to be down at the bottom. So if you are ready to take them, you have 2 tries. And, I would say take advantage of the replay, take advantage of the study group if this is the first time that you are seeing this information. But overall, the quizzes should be down here at the bottom somewhere.
Thanks, Shamir.
You're
And
welcome.
yep. So and folks can always post in the discussion in between classes, or if you keep needing additional information, we'll continue the discussion online.
All right. Well, thank you so much for, joining us today. I'm looking forward to learning with you as you go along. And if you have questions, like Raphael said, reach out to us through the discussion or come to a study group, and we will see you on Thursday.